محاضرة بروفيسور مزراحي أبحاث في البحر الأحمر حول حماية الشعاب المرجانية القادرة على الصمود في ظل التغييرات المناخية والحاجة الملحة لجهود المحافظة البيئية الإقليمية والدولية.
Thank you, Mai, and thanks for the invitation to visit here and talk to you today. This is a great pleasure. I'm coming from Eilat. I'm stationed at the Indian University Institute of Marine Science in Eilat. So I guess this lecture has the largest carbon footprint of all lectures here today, because I'm driving from Eilat and won't be driving back to Eilat when we're done here. So I'm going to be talking about the coral reefs of the Red Sea, and I think this is a special story which presents some hope in the relatively sad story of climate change. So we're trying to save coral reefs in the midst of a coral reef crisis, and this is really, I'll start with some depressing stories of the state of coral reefs of the world. But before we get into the real story, I guess you're all asking yourselves, what are coral reefs and why do we care? So I'll start with this, saying that coral reefs are underwater cities, and they are built by organisms, by animals, corals, that can secrete calcium carbonate, and by building the skeletons, they build the framework for the reef. But without the thousands of other species that live between corals, this is not a coral reef. It's not the underwater cities that are so beautiful and provide home to millions of species and also have a great economical value. And if they are healthy, they are very important for the world economy and health. They provide food for millions of people. They support coasts by building breakwaters or building constructions such as the Great Barrier Reef in Australia, so they shelter from storms and tsunamis. They provide livelihood from tourism. They serve a cultural asset as well as biodiversity and biodiscovery. Because of the long evolution of all these organisms, they've developed a lot of chemistry that is meant to attract each other in the water column or deter each other in competition for space, for underwater real estate. This chemistry that developed underwater can serve for pharmaceutical products and natural products. And this is why I often say that the future or the health of future generations greatly depend on the health of coral reefs. And there are at least 500 million people that are directly dependent on coral reefs, whether because they attract the daily protein consumption from coral reefs or just because of the fact that they are sheltered by reefs, but they all know it very well. The problem is that we are at the brink of collapse of all coral reefs of the world. In the last 30 years, we've lost 50% of all coral reefs of the world, and it is expected that by 2050, only 10% of reefs will remain. So we're looking at 80% loss in the Caribbean, 50% of the Great Barrier Reef, and probably more, is gone. So some iconic reefs are already losing a lot of their living surface. And this is, of course, a major loss to income, to culture, and to beauty and biodiversity of these reefs. And no matter what we will do today, how fast we will act to reduce carbon emissions, reefs are already impacted since the 80s when major mortalities or mass mortalities of coral reefs started. We've lost 50%, and since only 2009 we've lost another 15% or so. And on top of climate change, which is the biggest threat, we have also pollution, overfishing, physical destruction, and so on. And together with ocean acidification and warming, this is deteriorating reefs at an alarming pace. And no doubt we have to act, and we have to act fast, because the pace of change is also quickening. If we look only at the Great Barrier Reef of Australia, an iconic reef, this is happening so fast. In 2016, 30% of the reef was lost due to mass mortalities, bleaching and mass mortalities. And then in 2017, a back-to-back event, another 20%, and in 2020, another 20% mortality of the reef. This is happening much faster than what we expected, and this is bad news when 2,500 kilometers of reef is being affected by warming so fast, so quickly. And so this is happening mainly because of elevated seawater temperature, and as you know, marine heat waves are increasing in frequency and amplitude, and we're seeing more and more of these events. And you don't need more than 1 degree above the summer maximum, the average summer maximum per location, to see coral bleaching and mortality. This is all happening because of the unique relationship between coral, the animal coral, and the unicellular algae that live in their tissue at great density, over 1 million of these small cells per square centimeter of coral tissue. These unicellular algae provide 95% of the coral energetic requirements, and therefore, when seawater temperature rises and this special symbiosis ceases to exist, corals lose the main energetic source and then starve to death. And we're seeing, as I said, more and more of these events, and the future looks very grim because you don't need more than 1 to 2 degrees above the summer maximum to determine whether a coral will survive or bleach and die. And as we are looking at a trend of seawater temperature increasing, many of us are convinced that by 2030, we will no longer have reefs as we know them today. And this is just beyond the corner. This is tomorrow, basically. So, if we will meet the Paris Agreement goals, we're likely to see 70 to 90% loss of coral reefs. If we will be within the 2 degrees above pre-industrial conditions, we're likely to see 99% gone by 2050 or so. And this is very bad news for all of us. So it is likely that many reefs out there will undergo this process where from a flourishing coral reef, highly productive coral reef, we will see at plus 2 degrees a degradation and lower live cover, and at higher than 2 degrees above pre-industrial, we're likely to see bare substrate and dead reefs. Again, this is very bad news, unless we will find some refugia out there, places that didn't suffer or are likely to be more resilient and serve refuge for coral reefs. The Great Barrier Reef is long, 2,500 kilometers, and the southern part was suggested as a coral reef refugium because in the southern part, remember it's cooler down there in the southern hemisphere, we've seen less dramatic coral bleaching events. If we will be wise to find more places, and this is one of the goals, to find places that can serve refugia and will host corals beyond what is likely to happen in the coming decades, then we stand a chance. And some projects, such as the 50 Reefs project, are looking to find places where corals are doing better, to concentrate conservation efforts in these places and try to save these corals, because otherwise we stand no chance of securing all the ecological services that reefs provide. The 50 Reefs project is based on an algorithm looking at many parameters from the thermal resilience to how secure or how remote reefs are, and based on this algorithm they are suggesting at least 50 reefs that are likely to be fare better than others. Surprisingly, 50 Reefs project missed the reef with the largest chances of survival. Our reefs in the Red Sea, in the northern Red Sea and Gulf of Aqaba. And these reefs are suggesting the best refugia. So the story is that reefs in the Gulf of Aqaba are highly diverse, very rich reefs. They're beautiful. You know them for their beauty, but they also have many of the ecological services I've mentioned before. And we've never witnessed a bleaching event and mortality event in the Gulf of Aqaba and the northern Red Sea. And this is surprising and requires an explanation why this is so. And now we have the explanation. Together with our colleagues, we studied it, and now we realize that during the last glacial maximum, some 20,000 years ago, the Red Sea became almost dry, hypersaline, and killed most of the organisms there. But following the last glacial maximum, about 8,000 years ago, sea level returns to more or less what it is nowadays, and coral larvae can re-enter the Red Sea through the Straits of Bab el-Mandeb. They do so, they enter with the water in the plankton, and then they have to settle. After hours to days, they have to settle. They settle first in the southern Red Sea, where seawater temperature is very hot. They settle near Yemen, Eritrea, or Djibouti, where seawater temperature during summer is reaching 33, 34 degrees. Only the ones that can survive these temperatures, reach sexual maturity, and reproduce are the ones that are eventually reaching the northern Red Sea and the Gulf of Aqaba, where seawater temperature is lower by 7 degrees. So we're looking at an evolutionary process here where corals were selected for thermal tolerance of 33, 34 degrees, and only the ones that survived it now live in the Gulf of Aqaba temperatures, maximum temperature of 27. And this is a unique phenomenon. This is why these corals are so resilient to elevated temperature. We've used the current model of the Red Sea to simulate progression of coral larvae and found that indeed they will settle within the warm water pool, even if we left them there for about a month, which is much longer than what they usually need to settle and start growing. So this is a unique phenomenon, and even when we use our Red Sea simulator to look at corals and see how resilient they are, we find that they are extremely resilient. They can survive not the 1 to 2 degrees above the summer maximum as I've mentioned earlier, they can survive 7 degrees above the summer maximum. This is the only place we are aware of that corals can survive such a high temperature above the summer maximum because they were selected for such temperatures. And this is great news, so using all the sensors that we have on our monitoring robot, with our colleagues from the region and international colleagues, we've found that they are highly resilient and propose a great hope if we will be wise enough to remove local stress. Because we found that when we add, on top of elevated temperature, we add local stresses such as high nutrients and heavy metal, they are not as resilient. Their resilience is compromised. So we have to do it. We have to remove oil pollution, sewage discharge and eutrophication and sunscreen and even light pollution and acoustic pollution. It's all there. We have to eradicate it if we are to secure these reefs as a coral reef refuge. Otherwise, this is major loss. We don't want to even think of what will happen if the Egyptians will use this as a major income. The Egyptian reef tourism is the largest in the world, bigger than the Australian one, bigger than the Indonesian one. We don't want the Egyptians to lose this income. It's so important for their livelihood. And so, together with other colleagues, we've generated this document calling for declaring a World Heritage Site in the Gulf of Aqaba, joined by the 4 countries bordering the Gulf of Aqaba: Egypt, Jordan, Israel, and Saudi Arabia. And if we will be wise, and if the leaders will be wise enough to grab the opportunity to save this reef by making it a World Heritage Site, then many more generations will benefit from it. It will be the largest reef refuge if we will be wise to seize the opportunity and make it a coral reef refuge. The leaders are aware of it. They know that it is an important reef to all countries in the region, but we have to act fast to secure it as a coral reef refuge by declaring it. And just as an example, the last year there was a minor oil spill in Jordan, in Aqaba, in the port. It took about 1 day for this oil spill to be in Dahab, just emphasizing how important it is to do everything in this region in coordination. Reefs recognize no political borders, so does pollution. So we have to act in coordination, all countries jointly secure these reefs for future generations. Other planned urbanization and coastal development in the area, such as the new city of Neom that will be built along the Saudi coast, all this is likely to affect the coastal areas of the Red Sea and future generations living there. And so it is quite clear that we have to act fast. One of the things we did was establishing the Transnational Red Sea Center, a center aimed under the Swiss Foreign Ministry and using the Swiss neutrality to try to work in the region together with our colleagues from the region to generate open science, share all the data that we generate between the countries, and bring the best available science to support coral conservation and secure them. If we will be lucky to follow the vision of have the 8 countries of the Red Sea working together, and I can already share with you the information that we're working in Djibouti, Sudan, Egypt, Jordan, and Israel, and hope to extend it to other countries. This is wonderful, an amazing experience, an amazing opportunity, probably the only one that exists out there in the world today, to save a coral reef. It's within our reach, and we should grab and seize the movement. Thank you. I think that it's quite clear that the countries bordering the Gulf of Aqaba have minor players with respect to climate change, but we are pretty good at polluting the Gulf. And so removing pollution, light pollution, acoustic sewage, and all this stuff immediately is the most immediate thing to do, and share science. Sharing information is crucial.
There is a desert. There is no coral there. I saw it since 10 years ago. I was living there and never see a coral there.
So,
What's going on?
First of all, development. You can see the same thing in Eilat and in Aqaba.
But in Iran they protect it.
That's right. They are supposed to be protected in Jordan as well. There's a major project now to secure and conserve the reefs of Aqaba or Jordan, and it's easier there. They have 27 kilometers. We have 14 less. South of the port, there are some beautiful reefs.
The south near the Saudi border.
Towards the
Thank you.
I was there with
Thank you for your nice presentation. I would like to ask about, you mentioned in your presentation that the temperature of the seawater will rise almost 30 to 33 degrees. I think it's not suddenly will increase, this is gradually. And as we know, the living organisms can adapt gradually with this increasement. So you mentioned that after a while we got most all of the coral reef in the Aqaba. So what's your evidence about that?
The story is that reefs or reef-building corals are long-lived organisms, and therefore they are not adapting so fast. It takes a long time for corals to adapt because of the long generation time. So they're not good at it, not good at adaptation. Some will eventually, but it's too slow. The rate of increase in the Gulf of Aqaba is among the highest, just like the Mediterranean, among the highest in the world. So it's happening too fast. Luckily, we have that gap in the Gulf of Aqaba of about 6-7 degrees. So it will take about a century before they will reach the 32, which is the threshold. But otherwise, and elsewhere in the world, they are meeting the threshold too quickly. It's just happening too quickly to adapt. So in the Gulf of Aqaba, we still don't. I'm starting from the end. We still don't have much invasive species. Most of the invasive species are going from the Gulf of Aqaba over the Red Sea to the Mediterranean, over 400 species. But I think that the canal, we don't know yet. If we think that if indeed they will pump water from deeper water and bring it to the Dead Sea, not such a major damage. If it will be, as some suspect, it will be from shallow water. A lot of the larvae will be drifted and taken out, and this may have a larger ecological impact.
I have a comment, not a question. Thank you for this valuable lecture. I think this sets an example to learn from how all of these countries could collaborate on this front and start from climate and personal to political. Thank you very much.
I agree, there's no conflict here. Coral reefs are out.
It sets an example, it's not taken for granted. Thank you.
Temperature gradient according to the depth.
Thanks for the question about, you're talking about depth.
Yes, according to yes.
It's very interesting and a long story, and we don't have the time, but in the Gulf of Aqaba, temperature from the surface to 700, 800 meters is not too different. So at 800 meters, you have 20 degrees, 21. Unlike any other ocean where it will be 4 degrees, it's 20 because of the shallow seas of the Bab el-Mandeb and the Straits of Iran. Only surface water are going in, and you have temperature of 21 at 800 meters. That's amazing.